going on, Bucs fans? You're watching Bucs Breakdown by Chat Sports. My name is Reid Bartkus, and I hope you're having a great day today. Wherever you're watching, whenever you're watching, I hope it's a great one. All right, today's show, we're going to be talking about the top 5 Buccaneers to cut off the roster. Now, this is just a general list. I don't think this is what the Bucs will do or what they should do. More of who are the top 5 candidates that could potentially be cut going into the 2026 offseason for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Before we get into that, though, amazing. Guys, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? 41 new subscribers on our last video. It was a video about the salary cap and the Buccaneers getting great news, and 41 of you, brand new. So thank you so much for subscribing to the channel. Can we top it? Can we get more than 41 new subscribers on today's video? That would be absolutely amazing. My name is Reid Bartkus. I'm just a Bucs fan giving you guys Bucs content all offseason long, all year long for the NFL draft, daily videos, absolutely free. So let's get into today's show. You're watching the Bucs Breakdown by Chat Sports. And top 5 candidates to potentially cut off this roster. Now, like I kind of said at the top of the show, I don't know if this is necessarily my top 5 or necessarily the people that are going to get cut off this roster. But I want to give a huge shout out before we continue, because me and Caleb Skinner from Sports Illustrated Bucs had very similar players in terms of people that we could see getting cut off this roster. So I want to give a huge shout out. A lot of these names are going to be very similar, so I didn't want Caleb, if you're watching this, I mean, go Knowles, by the way. Shout out to you. I'm not stealing your content or anything. I just think a couple of the names that you had, very, very likely that these people would get caught off the Bucs roster. So before I just give you a shout out and start the show off like that, because you do great work. And I followed you on Twitter, but awesome. All right, let's get into the first name. Anthony Nelson, the edge on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Now, he has had a solid year. He had a solid year last year, and he's only 29, he's only 29 years old, I believe, and he's not necessarily a bad player, but I just think he's a candidate to sort of continue off this this roster as somebody who I don't really see being a contributor for the 2026 season as much as he maybe was counted on last year. So it's all just almost $2 million for the cap savings if you do cut him off the roster, because I think we need a refresh in the trenches, and I think the draft can do that. Maybe free agency, go get a guy like Trey Hendrickson, and it's no slight to him. He had 38 tackles, 3 sacks, 3 TFLs, 2 forced fumbles. Like I said, he didn't have a terrible year, but I just think he's potentially someone who the Bucs could move on from in 2026. Now, shout out to Caleb Skinner. He had a good written sort of, I guess you could just say quote on it. Producer Colin, I'm trying to come up with new words. While still just 29 years of age, cutting bait with Nelson would be difficult, but it is definitely an option with the Bucs looking to elevate the room this offseason. Especially if Chris Braswell, who I am high on, finally finds his ceiling. Additionally, he'll have to contend with the eventual return of last year's draft pick, David Walker, who I am also high on. So I have hopes for Braswell in year 3 and David Walker coming off that injury. Hopefully, those two can come back with a full force, and Anthony Nelson is not really needed on this team anymore, as well as maybe going out and getting a guy like Cassius Howe in the NFL draft. I think moving on from Anthony Nelson, it sort of like Caleb said, it's going to be a little bit tough just because he had a solid year last year and he's only 29 years old, but I think we just need some new guys down in the trenches and a refresh on this defense where Todd Bowles on the hot seat. So I think he needs a refresh. That's really all it is. All right, and some more production, and I think we can get that out of the draft and free agency. Now, this one's a little tough because cutting a punter just doesn't feel right. It kind of feels mean because it's like special teams, it's an important part of the NFL and it's an important part of your team, but you save $3 million if you cut Riley Dixon off of this roster. And With a new special teams coach, I think moving on from Riley Dixon is a real possibility because, one, you save $3 million, and two, that's a lot of money for a punter. And when you're trying to save as much money, when you get more cap space in this salary increase from the NFL, we want to make as many moves as possible in this offseason with a new OC. Maybe we want to go get a new tight end or something like that. So cutting a punter, we'll go draft a punter in the later round, or you just draft a punter. Pick up a punter after the later rounds of the NFL draft and in free agency after the draft is over. You just go get a guy who is serviceable, but maybe just move on from a veteran punter who is likely out since we have a new special teams coach in Danny Smith. So nothing against Riley Dixon. He had a solid year this year, but I think it's time. You save $3 million. Who do you think the Bucs should cut? I really pride this channel. I want it to be less about me and more about Bucs fans and you guys out there. So you let me know who you think the Bucs should cut. If you think I'm an idiot and you don't think we should move on from Anthony Nelson or Riley Dixon or any guys on these lists or on this list, please let me know down in the comment section. I read all the comments, but I want to hear from you. Who do you think the Bucs should cut heading into the 2026 offseason? Moving on to our third candidate. Now, this is no rank either, by the way. This is more of who I think could potentially be cut, because the first two, Anthony Nelson and Riley Dixon, both Caleb Skinner had on his article as well. So where we kind of differ here, but you can go either way, is Kameron Johnson, the wide receiver here. Now, I think you can go a different way, but I think my thought process here is Kameron Johnson, he's more of a special teamer, and he had a good year last year. Nothing crazy. Back in September, he won NFC Special Teams Player of the Month. But if you just want to clear out that room a little bit more, and maybe you clear out that room and make space for a tight end, say, that you want to bring in. Maybe you let Cade Otton go and bring in a Kyle Pitts or something from Atlanta, because Zach Robinson, his offense likes to run through a vertical threat up the seam. And, I mean, we know Kyle Pitts was burning us anytime the Atlanta Falcons played the Bucs. So if you want to go get a guy like that, or if you want to keep Cade Otton and maybe keep a guy like, Payne Durham or Delvin Cope, and sort of have that three-headed tight end room where you develop Delvin Cope and you use Cade Otton more in the blocking sense. But it's really up to Zach Robinson and this Bucs front office and this offense to be like, hey, maybe we move on from a guy like Kameron Johnson. We really lean into Tez Johnson and Emeka Egbuka and maybe go a different way. Maybe go get somebody in the draft as well. So you can always dip your feet into there as well. So nothing against Kameron Johnson, just some candidates that could get cut off this roster. Moving on to Josh Hayes, who Caleb Skinner also had on his list, and the cornerback. And I think you focus on corner in the draft, and there's a lot of good guys that you get. Chandler Rivers from Duke later on in the draft, maybe like around 4, maybe 3, somewhere around there. You got to see how the mock drafts are going, and after the Senior Bowl, a lot of people are shifting and stuff. But maybe a guy like Malik Muhammad from Texas. Last year, 30 tackles, 2.5 TFLs, 6 PBUs, 2 interceptions. The guy is a corner, like a basic corner, and I think when you go move on from a corner and you want to get younger in that corner, in that secondary, I think you're going to have to focus more in the draft and get a guy like a Malik Muhammad or a Chandler Rivers later on in the draft. Or if you want to move on from Hayes and focus a little bit more on the earlier rounds, maybe in the second or third round, getting a really good guy in the second or third round of the NFL draft in the secondary, and continue helping that defense where it's needed. And I think corner is one of our needs. So moving on to the end of our list here. The last one is Elijah Roberts, the defensive tackle, and out of SMU. And I just think with our needs this offseason, I've said it before, we need a good pass rush. Our pass rush last year was just not good or impressive at all. And I think that's the biggest need going into the 2026 season, is just really winning in the trenches. And I think moving on from a guy like Elijah Roberts is sort of needed, because if you want to go after somebody in the draft like a Cassius Howler or a Folk or a David Bailey if he's there, I think let's go find a stud in the NFL draft and help Vita Vea and help Yaya Diaby and honestly help this entire defense, because if you can't get a pass rush, the secondary is going to struggle as well. So how about you go get a guy like Darrell Jackson out of Florida State? Go Noles. Shout out to you. 45 tackles, 3 TFLs, 1 sack, 14 pressures. He is not going to wow you off the stat sheet. He is a behemoth of a guy who will be next to Vita Vea or be your Vita Vea replacement, because he's a run stopper. He's a plugger up in the middle, and he's huge, dude. So you go get a guy like that in the 3rd or 4th round, I think you move on from Roberts and you get a guy like Jackson, or you find a stud in the NFL draft, because unfortunately Vita Vea not getting any younger. And he slots in as my bonus candidate right now. I don't want to get crucified in the comments, because I was thinking about adding Vita Vea to this list because he is a cut candidate. He's not getting any younger. We're not going to restructure his contract later on to push money down, because as he gets older, his play only is going to get worse because of the way he plays. And I want to be clear. Before you comment right now, I don't want to cut Vita Vea. I just do not. This was a general list, a general candidate list of who the Bucs could potentially cut. He saves $15.7 million in salary cap space if you cut him. Now, I don't want to, but you got to, in your head, think, what is Jason Licht and Todd Bowles and the Glazers thinking to help out this defense? Is it moving on from Vita Vea? I don't know. I don't want to, but he saved $15 million in cap space. You could make a lot of moves with that $15 million. But, hey, those are all my cut candidates list. Shout out to Caleb Skinner again for helping with a list that I was researching who to think about, putting these on, and I couldn't stay away from the guys that he picked. So shout out to you, Caleb. But thank you guys so much for watching to the end of this video. If I missed anyone, if you're like, no, we totally have to cut this guy or totally have to keep this guy, please let me know down in the comment section. But shout out to everyone for making it to the end of the video. Hope you have a great rest of your day. And as always, fire the cannons.